Today at Australian Musician, we're talking about FENIX360, the new artist-centric multi-genre social media platform. And to tell us all about it, we welcome FENIX360 founder and global CEO, ALLAN and FENIX360 CEO of Asia, Sandy Monteiro. Guys, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you very much for having us.
Australian Musician was at the FENIX360 press conference at the Corner Hotel this week, and we did a story outlining what the platform was all about. But I'd like to hear it from you guys in your own words, what FENIX360 is all about.
Well, I was commenting earlier today on the fact that when people ask us what are the differences between us and social media, I tend to say everything. And FENIX is all about really changing the way social media compensates artists and content creators, because at the moment, our view is it's somewhat abysmal. The same is true of certain digital music platforms. And I think in the digital age, the hope was that the artist would have more direct contact with their audience and therefore earn more money. And that promise hasn't been at all fulfilled. In fact, a number of middlemen, it's fair to say, take the lion's share of the money. And despite the fact that digital, in theory, gives the artist the ability to connect with an audience, they don't end up being compensated fairly. So the genesis of FENIX360 was to compensate the artist fairly. But to do that, you have to have a somewhat obsessive, comprehensive view of what that involves. And it involves not only giving a much higher percentage. So, for example, for advertising, we give 70% to the artist versus what might be 3% of advertising on some other platforms. But it also involves lots of different types of revenue generating options for the artist, because the assumption that artists will only want one option, or the NFTs will save the world, we don't think is necessarily correct, right? So they have options for live streaming, and they have options for merchandise, they have options for special events, they have options for ticketing and NFTs and other things. So we'll frankly keep on adding that on. And the other thing is to give the artists lots of tools for their trade, and control of how they present themselves. So really, it is, as I began by saying, very different to current social media. But interestingly, when you do everything possible for the artist, it means that they have more options for engaging with the fans, and that presumably will make a much more enriching experience for the fans. So I think you actually address both simultaneously.
Yeah,
I think Greg, if I can add to that, if you look at the last 15 years or maybe 20 years even, you've seen the slow deflation of the artist benefit. You know, how the magnificence and the ability of an artist to really grow has basically been deflating over the last 20 years. And if you look at the content industry or platforms that run content industries, these guys have turned into multi-billion-dollar businesses. And between them and the middlemen, they've taken all the money, and the artist is left with basically nothing. And the most cynical part of it is now creators or artists are expected to make content regardless of whether they get paid for it or not. And I think it's about time, it changed. And that's what FENIX is all about. It's about changing the equation.
Yeah, I should say that you're not just a couple of excited guys with a great idea. You both have worked extensively in the entertainment business at a very high level, and you've experienced the journey of the music business from physical product to the online realm and all aspects of it. I believe there are at least 3 years of planning this project before you launched. Tell me what went down in those 3 years.
It was probably more like 5 years in truth. It may have been 3 years if not for COVID, but COVID had the downside that one couldn't actually implement plans, but it also had the enormous upside that being enclosed in a living room for a couple of years, you had the opportunity for a lot of deep thinking about what would achieve perfection in terms of what you want to do. So COVID was a mixed blessing. It also was, interestingly, just to digress on COVID for a second, it was interestingly something that brought into clearer relief the plight of the musician and the artist, because, you know, artists, as long as they can have a gig and earn some money, right, and enjoy the lifestyle of being an artist, they aren't at the maximum level of disgruntlement, right? But when they stop being able to have a gig and they stop earning money, and even if they've been very disciplined, you know, their 1.5 to 2 years of savings suddenly dissipates, right? When that happens, they become a bit more disgruntled. But then when they observe the middlemen living fine while they, the artists, can't survive COVID, then it really puts everything in stark relief, right? And I think that's what happened. So in any case, during that period of time, we did go from being mainly a music-oriented program to doing it for all the arts, right? And I think that's important because, frankly, there is no place you can go at the moment and just get all the arts packaged for you. And no doubt music will always be the preeminent art that people consume, right? I think that's always going to be the case. But consumers of music do like other things. They like seeing a bit of visual art. They might like seeing an actor, a dancer, a model, right? And they are all in our environment. So one thing was to actually understand that we want to be comprehensive for the arts. The other thing was just to keep on adding on options for the artists, both in terms of revenue and in terms of tools for the artists. So this sort of period of time enabled us to keep on building. We were very blessed in that we kept on getting funding during COVID. We don't actually understand quite why, but our initial funding mainly came from Singapore. Our COVID funding, for want of a better term, came principally from Germany. And lots of individual German business people mainly, and they kept us going, and that kept us enabling us to build a product, which is, you know, a fairly complex, sophisticated product. And that period of time, you know, was well used. And so I think we've probably used the time fairly well, and now we're ready for prime time.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, the discussions were about what kind of split could we actually give back to the creators that would still allow us to operate as a business, right? Because I mean, like now we see TikTok takes 99.9% of all the money. YouTube takes like 85% plus of all the money, right? So is that the number? Is it 50-50? Is it 70-30? Is it 30-70? Is it 65-35? What is it? And we sat down and we figured out that at a 70% back to the creators, it would create models that would allow them to actually live off their craft. And at 30% based on our expected revenues over the next 5 years, it would give us more than sufficient to actually run a successful business. And that's how we got to the 70-30 point.
Yeah.
For advertising. And for everything else, it's 95% to the artist. Because we don't want, if they have a product, if they have a live stream, we don't want to take more than the absolute minimal amount. But the advertising is what runs the internet, runs us. And the truth is there's no reason to have more than the percentages we've mapped out.
Yeah. Just to allay fears for artists looking to sign up for FENIX360, the creator retains ownership of everything on the platform. They don't lose
so
it.
We are an agnostic platform. Correct.
Yeah. And not only do they retain ownership, but also to allay perhaps related fears. They don't pay anything for participation. We don't demand any contractual exclusivity. We encourage them to continue using all possible source of income for themselves. We hope that in time we become the dominant source of income for them, but we do not want to cut off any opportunity under any circumstance for the artist.
Yeah. Tell us about some of the tools that you've made available that the streaming services don't offer.
Yeah, sure. A major one is data. The fact is the data, if you like, is collected on the back of the artist and their fans. It is the artist and their fans that provide the data that is so valuable to advertisers. And it seems absurd, apart from amoral, to not make this available to the artist. Now, what is the value of data? Well, it was interesting because early on, as we were developing the program, actually pre-COVID, I happened to be in Europe meeting with a bunch of heavy metal bands, and one of these heavy metal bands helped us get some initial artists to give their views, test it out, and come on board. And I said to them, listen, we're going to be able to tell you exactly where your fans are, down to the street address, without violating privacy, because there'll be no names. And they said, that's amazing. They said, we actually blindly choose which festivals to play at in Europe, and we have no idea whether that's the best festival in terms of location of our fans or not. We just don't know. Right? Because the fans own social media platforms and we aren't given access to that. So if we knew, right, that, most of our fans were near Prague, we'd play the festival based in Prague, right, or elsewhere. On a sort of smaller level, just the gig on Friday night. If you're having a gig in Fitzroy and you want to invite people for 5 kilometers around the gig, right, it's worthwhile knowing who those people are and being able to send an invitation to them. So data like that is invaluable. Also, there's been not the necessary tools to, if you like, monetize just fans' existence in and of itself. The way that musicians have monetized is by the plays of their song, right? But the fact is, between hits, between having a popular song, there are still musicians who need to live, right? So how do you do that? So we have changed the model fundamentally that a musician or an artist can create their own app, which is what we call a shareable app or web app, right? They can do this in about 20 minutes and it has everything in their career that they could possibly want to include and all the tools to include it, right? And they then can put the URL for that web app on their existing social media, Instagram, wherever it might be, right? Anybody who clicks on that instantly gets that artist app on their phone. Now, we don't expect them to have multiple artist app, but that is sort of a calling card to encourage them to download the full app, which has to be from the App Store. App stores don't lend themselves to sharing. A web app does. But when they actually do that, anybody who comes via their route, or alternatively, any artist that's nominated as an artist that a user wants to support, they get a monthly stipend, if you like, from having introduced that fan. Right. And it doesn't depend on the popularity of their song as of that particular day or week. Right. For example, in the United States, if you have 10,000 fans introduced in this method, we estimated a minimum you'll make $1.44 US per month. Right. In Australia, per fan, so 14,400 for 10,000 fans. In Australia, it's probably a bit less than that. In Indonesia, it's a lot less than that. It's probably 10%, so $1,400 for 10,000 fans, but $1,400 US for an Indonesian artist is completely transformative, right? And we believe in all the markets it will be. And what it means is it's like an annuity. It doesn't vary enormously. So if you become a legacy artist, it doesn't mean that your earnings go down to nothing. As long as you continue to create interest in your app on the platform, they will be users and the revenues will be pretty good for you, we believe.
Yeah. But clearly there are benefits for the artists or the creator to use FENIX360 to promote and sell their art. Tell me the benefits to the fan and how you or the artist go about attracting fans to the platform?
Well, what fans love is a variety of engagements with artists. So to the extent that the artist is doing live streaming, they're doing special, special events, right? Right, as Sandy has often mentioned, it might be yoga, right, on a particular day. To the extent that they're providing merchandise, right, that they're providing NFTs, all of these are exciting to the fans. We additionally have a section where the artist has all of their interests, which fans also love. So you can find out what the artist's favorite movies are, their favorite TV shows, their favorite books, their favorite remedies, their favorite recipes. Now, many of these have possible links to external commercial organizations. So a favorite book, for example, might have a link to Amazon. Amazon will pay a referral fee for that. 95% of that goes to the artist. So I think in trying to actually make it as round a proposition and as comprehensive a proposition commercially for the artists as you can, you also make it as engaging as you possibly can for the fan, because all these activities engage the fans much more than a slimmer selection of activities.
I think also the point of how you monetize. I mean, everybody's worried that, oh yeah, I can engage the fans, but the fans has to pay, for activity with the artist. And what we want to do is bring in the function of, ad funded. So, a fan can actually watch 10 ads and earn ad credit and transfer those ad credits to the artist and able to join an event for free. So these are all kind of things that when you say what exactly does FENIX bring to the table, we're trying to create engagement opportunities and commercial opportunities that are all self-contained, which means you don't need to know very much, but as you start to learn how to use it, you will understand there's an opportunity down here. One of the things that we also do is that we have like a step-by-step kind of procedure to teach artists how to create NFTs. If they want to create NFTs and figure out how to participate in NFTs, that's provided as a service for no charge. And as new options and new technologies come in to help monetize, we will keep adding these new opportunities for artists to create and learn things with no risk and no burden.
Yeah. I registered just as a fan for now, and when I open up the app, I suppose you can configure it however you like, but when I open it, I get a video of an artist, and if I go to Rising, I get featured musicians. There seems to be opportunities for artists to elevate their profile within the app. Are these just random, or are these artists based on views? How does that aspect?
It's based on what is trending at that moment, right? Certainly we have the option to feature artists if we feel as though this is something that should be presented to fans, but at the moment it's based on the algorithm which presents what is trending at the moment, right? It's, the fact is we want people to be able to hone in on what they're really interested in every way. So you might have noticed that there are an almost infinite number of genres of music that you can select. The app will also, from an AI backend, learn what you like, right? And it will go, via that also. You can also have a feed which is just those artists you followed versus general artists. So there's many, many ways that we allow the fan to actually hone in on exactly what suits them. And the automatic learning is fascinating because to the extent the algorithm gets it right, when you like some songs, it will supply lots of those types of songs. And it's almost like it's inside your head. You are hearing A, songs that that you like, and B, songs that you've never heard of before that suddenly you discover you like. And these algorithms have become pretty sophisticated. Yeah, it's quite interesting what is available today in sort of predictive technology. But you can do a fairly good job. And look, we will continue to learn from We'll continue to learn from artists and fans about what really, really works. This is not, we at the moment expect about to make 500 changes to the app every month, right? That seems to be what the average is when we're very active and working on the app, and we'll continue to evolve it, right? It's a work in progress.
Yeah. So, Sandy, you launched first in Asia. What have you learned from the Asian experience so far?
So we understand what the market really, really wants and really, really needs. And the reason why we think it was the right choice is these markets like Indonesia and the Philippines, we have artists using platforms that don't help them monetize. Platforms like Instagram or platforms like TikTok that give little or nothing for creating content and doing stuff. And these artists are taking those platforms and monetizing them. So the biggest learnings we had from Indonesia and the Philippines is watching these artists take our platform and start to create monetizing options. So there's a huge platform in the Philippines at the moment where they actually put artists together and create monetizing options for them. So we're going to take those learnings and make them available on our platform and share it with all artists. So it really is about showing all artists how to make money from FENIX. So what we've learned is that the ways we think artists are going to make money is a fraction on how artists are actually going to make money, because they are teaching us things that we never expected.
Yeah.
The other thing I think we learned a little bit about is virality. If you just type in to Google FENIX360 Philippines, for example, and we kept on learning, and Philippines was our most recent launch, you will see hundreds, maybe thousands of videos of the event provided by influencers and individuals, right? And so we now understand virality, and we understand how to harness that in terms of driving traffic to the general app, to specific artist apps. So yeah, it is a learning process, and we're doing it on what we consider safe ground in this part of the world. It's invaluable to us.
And Greg, the biggest learning is understanding hunger. When there's a hunger to learn something or use something for benefit or to earn money, you come up with all sorts of brilliant ideas. And I think that's the biggest learning that we want to try and transfer to everybody and all these artists is like, be hungry. Because if you're hungry and we give you the tools, you will find a way on how to make money and how to sustain yourself with these tools. And as Allan has mentioned, it's not about one song. It's not about one hit for the month or whatever. It's about you as an artist and your following and fan base, and engaging with them will keep you sustained on a steady basis.
Yeah. So this week you held the press conference for the Australian media. What about the public? Will you be doing a public launch of some sort in Australia?
We will before the end of the year, we believe. We are beginning to plan it assiduously now. We will use what we think is a really nice way to launch in a country, which is take maybe up to 10 of the most popular bands of the moment, right? So they can in turn introduce it to fans, get a lot of artists to actually be at the launch. The launches we've done have tended to be about 2,500, 3,000 people, right? And really introduce us into the artistic community and the fan community. We think Australia will be a really great learning place for us. It also gives me an opportunity to be at home, which I, at the moment, savor. So
Greg, Australia is our first global top 10 market. So in the beginning, we've just been doing markets that have the mass, as well as the markets that will show us how to get the most out of the platform. And coming to Australia, it really is about addressing our first global market.
Yeah. So for a creator, it would seem that there is a nothing to lose and possibly much to gain process in at least trying FENIX360. Well, I guess that would, the advice would be just to give it a go.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they should, and absolutely, I endorse that statement. They could have been something to lose, but we made sure that they can't be anything to lose. So to explain that, right, if we said, just come to the FENIX platform, forget your YouTube, forget something else, right, it could be that as we grow in numbers and influence, that their income would dip, and we didn't want to allow that possibility. We never want to do anything but improve the loss of the artist. So what we did is enable artists to embed their YouTube videos on FENIX, right? So that any views they get on FENIX, right, will be exactly the same in terms of compensation through YouTube, right? So we enable them to embed both their YouTube videos, their Apple Music songs, right, etc. And this is important, right? You know, in time, they may choose to directly post videos, etc. But for the early days, we think it's very important that at every point, there is nothing to lose, as you correctly put it.
Yeah. So what's the end game for FENIX360? What would success look like for you guys?
Well, I could say world domination, but I probably would sound a bit scary if I said that. So I would say that if we can improve by any multiple the loss of the artist, we have really succeeded. And in fact, although we have all of these sophisticated plans for marketing, my own belief for a long time has been the moment that 100 artists can stand up in a bona fide way and say, we earned whatever multiple it is, 1.5 times, 5 times, 10 times, we earned a multiple of what we earned on other platforms of FENIX. At that point, we're going to be rushed by potentially millions of artists, because no artist can afford to ignore extra revenue. They have to pay their rent, they have to pay for life. And so for me, the success comes from actually improving the loss of the artist. And I think we can get there fairly rapidly.
I think like, just to summarize what Alan is saying, that if you were an artist and at the end of the month you wrote down all the income that you got from all the other platforms, and if FENIX is on the top of that list, or if FENIX is bigger than the combination of all the other incomes, then I think we would have achieved what we've set out to achieve. You know, we want to create a platform that allows the artists to earn more and more steady income than ever before off any other platform, or off all the other platforms combined.
Yeah. And I should say, nothing would please us more than the other platforms doing a better job of compensating the artist. If we can spearhead that, because other platforms feel as though they need to offer more, that's great. The artist will benefit.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's been great to have another chat, and all the best with it all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And we hope to chat with you around the time of our launch in Australia.
Yeah.